It's an evil world we live in.
I don't know what this world is coming to.
Oh, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, do not adjust that dial. Yes, I am back from yet another hiatus. It is what I do. I'm sorry, life be motherfucking lifing. But we're back, and hopefully I can get back into the rhythm of doing this podcast every other week or at least once a fucking month. But yeah, life has been lifing. There's been a lot of changes in my life since the last time that I recorded this podcast, and I guess I'll kick it off with that. I actually just recently started a new job. Yes, thank you. Now, I won't say the name of the company, but let's just say that I drop stuff off at your doorstep, and these items come possibly from a forest in South America, if you get my drift. Yeah, I started working there. What was that? About May. So this is the second month I've been with the company, and it is it's an interesting gig. I enjoy it, I guess you can say. I'm definitely getting in shape. I'm walking shit over 8 miles a day. I've been weighing myself and kind of keeping an eye on that. And since I'm getting more than my 10,000 steps a day, and I work, what is that, 410s or 412s, whatever, the route kind of looks like. I'm basically losing about a pound a week. And so I'm on pace to, by next month, be under 200 pounds for the first time in a very long time. So kind of kudos to that, being able to get my exercise in, continue to get my health in order. And so it's been interesting. The other thing that's been interesting with this gig is I've been driving around a lot of different parts of the valley that I guess I've never really been to. I'm going all throughout the East Valley, and I guess that would be like the far southeast valley. And boy, oh boy, is it amazing the economic disparity that's going on in America. I guess it's really, I don't know, hit me in my face now that I'm kind of out of my normal areas and just kind of being able to see how people are living in random communities. I spend a lot of time going down to the reservation, dropping packages off there. And it's interesting. You go down to the reservations and it's a ton of dirt roads. There's no street lamps. There is a disparity of like everyone has houses, but like it's a different level of houses. Some are, very nice brick houses. Some of them are like mobile homes that are barely being put together. There's a lot of different ones that are like completely run down and boarded up and different things like that. But for the most part, in the reservation, the great majority of these people are in the lower economic sphere, if you will. And it's interesting going from, dropping some stuff off in that area, being in the reservation for like half a day, and then heading up to Chandler, for instance. And I'm out in Chandler and I'm going to these massive gated communities with these massive driveways and these multi-million-dollar houses that have like courtyard entrances where, you got to walk 15 yards to get to the courtyard to then open that door. And then there's like a outside area where they'll have like couches and tables and different things like that. And then you reach the front door to these houses. And it's also interesting that so many of these $1 million homes have these glass front doors, and it's like mind boggling to me, especially being someone, growing up in the hood. you would never have a front door that is all glass. For one, the motherfucker could crack that real quick to get in. Two, you need to know who is walking up to your door, and if you feel like opening that door or not. Like you kind of need that peephole to kind of peep. Hey, what's going on? Who's at my door? Is this a setup? Is it the cops? Like, what the fuck is going on? And so it's been like a mind fuck seeing just a lot of these houses and just how big they are. And even I've had instances where like I'm dropping off packages at these multi-million dollar homes, and like I'm dropping off 5 packages and there's already 8 packages outside that they still haven't taken in. And it's just like these motherfuckers are just so wealthy, they're just ordering shit and shit is just collecting outside their doors, and they'll get to it when they get to it, because who gives a fuck? They're rich and they're wealthy and they have no concerns about anything. um and it's been interesting kind of looking at that disparity. And as we see the middle class is shrinking and shrinking to the point where very soon, shit, quite frankly, we're kind of already there, but very soon we're going to be at a place where everybody is either rich and wealthy or everybody is poor. There is no middle class. And I have been confused for quite some time. Like, how are there so many people supporting Trump as the economy's crashing and the gas prices are, going up? Like, why aren't enough Americans mad about what's going on right now? And I guess I didn't realize how large that fucking 1% is. It's like it's a lot more people doing well out there than I realized. And that's a bit of a mind fuck. And then for the rest of us who aren't doing as well, we have our bread and circuses. And so we continue to ignore what's actually going on because we have our bread and circuses. And so I don't know. It's been a mind fuck, just kind of, and that's how my brain works. And just driving around and seeing different, going from house to house in different environments. It's weird. It's a weird disconnect in America of where we are all at financially, if you will. But yeah, speaking of that, I guess you could say money wise, while I'm working for this company, money wise, I'm not even making half of what I was making at my previous job. So I am in a position where I am going to have to sell this house, let this house go. There's kind of no getting around it. I can't fucking afford this house. And I mean, it is what it is. I could say that with getting laid off last November, I did take that personal. Like, it felt like a personal attack on me, because I have like another piece of the puzzle. I've been it's been documented about health issues, different things that I've been going through, just trying to get my health in order. I had the diabetes scare and the high blood pressure and the sleep apnea, all that stuff, the past or a couple years ago, that I was kind of working through, and that's what started the weight loss journey. But after I kind of got over that hump of clearing up a lot of that stuff, it was like, yo, something is still going on. I'm still battling like fatigue. I'm always exhausted. I'm battling this brain fog. I'm having a hard time concentrating. I'm very irritable. Like, what is going on? And the final piece of that puzzle was I end up finding out that I am ADHD, which is basically autistic with ADHD. And being someone who's a late diagnosis, autistic person, having, had it for 40 years without realizing it, I have done a very good job over the course of my lifetime masking it. But I didn't know that that was me masking, me doing these different things to kind of fit in socially and in these corporate environments. I did not realize that that was masking. I just always felt like the black sheep of everything, the alien. And it was just like, this is just kind of how life is. But it's like, oh shit, this isn't what life is like for neurotypical people. It's just my brain works differently. And that's why it's so difficult to kind of intermingle with all these people and fit into these neat boxes that just don't make any motherfucking sense. But I say all that to say that that was the last little piece of the medical puzzle. Finding out that I was ADHD, and I was working with that doctor, and decided to put some paperwork together for the adults with disabilities, when you ask for accommodations, for a disability. And I had put that in with the job. And then it was literally like 2 weeks after getting that put in with the job that I got laid off. And so I initially was like, oh, these motherfuckers got mad that I had the audacity as a black man in corporate America to ask for, some reasonable accommodations. And that's the reason why they let me go. And even though that, might still be part of what the situation was, or that might have been, part of the tipping point of what helped them make the decision to lay me off, it looks like I would have eventually got laid off anyway, because a couple weeks ago, that company went through a ton more additional layoffs, and looks like that job was going to get eliminated regardless. So it's interesting, and it just, I went through this additional transformation with my life and financially, if you will, last November. And I guess it was going to happen in November, or it was going to happen at the beginning of June. There was kind of no getting around it, that I was going to be going down this course, if you will. But it's funny too, because I'm still friends with a handful of people that work over there, and I got some info on some of the revamping of the direction. Like, the fucking corporate double talk, how they do things. They'll lay off a bunch of people and be like, oh, we laid off all these people because it's going to put us in a better position our next fiscal year, all that bullshit. But essentially, they're a company that have been wanting to go public for quite some time, and they're fucking idiots who can't seem to determine a strategic direction to go in. So they just keep spitballing, shotgunning approach, running this way, running that way, trying to figure out what's most profitable. So, the head motherfucker could go ahead and go public and, become a billionaire. But it's interesting that I got to see the pitch for basically the revamping of the department. And it's interesting because the revamp is basically an idea of what I had pitched quite some time ago, a year or maybe, 12 to 18 months before I got laid off. I had pitched this idea of what we needed to do to make the PMO run better, and how it was going to bring costs down on projects, and also ensuring that there is work for all levels of project managers. And it was like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe, I don't know, we'll kind of think about it, only for me to again get laid off, and them to go ahead and run with that idea, while this PMO is also being managed using a whole bunch of tools and things that I created to make the PMO more efficient. And so here we are, damn near a year later, and these motherfuckers are still reheating my leftovers. So I guess I'll take that as a positive, to like, don't look at myself as like a failure. Oh my God, I got laid off. What could I have done better? There was nothing I could have did better. I had all the ideas to make the PMO office run better, but essentially there were people higher than me who did not have the same mental capacity that I had to be able to come up with these creative ideas to kind of get things to where they needed to be. And I think they felt intimidated. And as it comes with corporate America, if a black person is, not staying in place and not being small and shrinking themselves for everyone else, people get intimidated. So I don't know. I guess the moral of the story is don't trust white women. Speaking of white women.
Beat shebang. All of my ops, they dead.
Manish on the beat shebang. All of my ops, they're dead. Why do they gas me up? Where does he go? My head? This nigga sucks!
That is right. Your boy Drizzy Drake is back. He dropped 3 albums. What was it, back in May? The main album was Iceman. That was the one that he had been promoting for a while, doing the live video streams. And then just before the album dropped, he put the big ice block where you had to like chip through the ice to then find the release date. And it was there for like overnight. Or they had placed it. It was there overnight, and I think the cops and some local authorities had got upset about just the people loitering around in the area. And then all of a sudden, the very next morning, this streamer just so happened to know the exact spot to chip in and find the Iceman promo package and all that stuff. I'll say this first. Kudos to Drake. It was a very creative way to come up with a way to promote a brand new album. And then when the album Iceman dropped, it was a surprise because they ended up being 3 albums. It ended up being Iceman, Habibity, and then Maid of Honor, which they are basically counting as Drake's 9th, 10th, and 11th album, which is kind of confusing to me because, like, in my head, when I saw that it came out, it was like, oh, he dropped a triple disc. But I guess triple discs don't exist in a world where we don't sell CDs. Shit, a lot of you artists don't even drop albums anymore. Quite frankly, you guys are dropping playlists, but we'll get into more of that in a minute. But overall, Drake is back, and as someone who is not a big Drake fan, I'll go ahead and put my bias up front. I think that shit came and went. Like, nobody is still talking about this album. At least the people outside of the Drake hemisphere aren't talking about these albums. I don't hear, any of the songs still kind of ringing around. I don't see TikTok trends with Drake songs. I don't see people still doing IG captions using Drake lyrics. Like, it really feels like those 3 albums came and went, which goes with what I had been saying over the past couple of years. The Kendrick Drake beef happened, and then people who are Drake stans and these people who just like whatever the popular music is, a lot of people are like, oh man, hip-hop ain't been the same, rap ain't been the same since they've tried to get Drake out of here. It's just, oh, it's been so quiet. And leading up to Iceman, I had argued that with a bunch of different Drake fans and people online. What do you mean that hip hop has been bad since Drake disappeared? Since Not Like Us had dropped, Drake had dropped over 50 fucking songs. Just y'all aren't listening to any of that shit. None of that shit is ringing on past a week. Like, he dropped a bunch of Lucy's. He did that. Oh, I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a drop that he did through IG, where then you went and it was like fucking dozens upon dozens of songs in there. And then I remember it had like Cicadia Rhythm or something like that. That was the one on the Joe Budden podcast specifically. I kept hearing them talk about like, oh, this is the one, but kind of same thing. That didn't kind of ring off either. Then Drake did the group album with Party Next Door, the songs for Sexy People, whatever the hell the name of it was. And Nokia kind of rang off for a little bit, but it's been cold for Drake, and it's been cold because he hasn't made music that he's a fast food artist, and eventually at some point people get tired of McDonald's, quite frankly, and that is what's going on. And me being the hip hop head that I am, I'm really put off with Drake, and especially with just some of the records that I did hear, some of the lyrics I did hear from the Iceman album. He's still talking tough, and I can't take you serious after you ran to the law after losing a rap battle. I will never, like, I've been saying this for a while, and I wish, I was more poetic with my words, because I know there's a simple way to make this statement and just kind of have it, live on for a while. But There is not the Venn diagram between Drake and his fans and Trump and MAGA. That Venn diagram is a circle. All these people are one and the same. The same way that we look at politics and we look at Trump and a bunch of the shit that he does, that we say, man, if somebody else did this, they would not allow this, but because it's him doing it, y'all look the other way. It's the same exact thing with Drake. Like, Drake has had so many controversies that should have killed any other artist, but Drake fans will not turn their back on this guy. You know, you go back in time to the fucking what was it, T.I.'s homeboy that pissed on Drake's leg. Like, it came out that they were at some theater or something like that, and some dude thought it would be funny to whip out his dick and piss on Drake's leg, and then Drake got up and like didn't do anything about it, and then they like laughed, and like that story leaked. I think it was like a year after it happened, and nobody cared. He was still able to put out music and was still able to continue to talk tougher and tougher and act like a mob boss in his music, and his fans continue to run with it. Then you had the situation where during the beef with Meek Mill, it came out that he had a ghostwriter, and there was a bunch of records that came out of Quentin Miller doing reference tracks for Drake, where essentially, those who don't know what a reference track is, you have someone else who is the actual artist, and they'll write the lyrics, they'll figure out the flow, they'll record it, and then whoever the actual artist that is going to take that track, then they'll get that reference track from that ghostwriter, and then they'll use that cadence, they'll use those lyrics. Sometimes they'll tweak some things here and there, but essentially you have someone else who kind of cooks up the inspiration idea and actually records it, and then the megastar artist comes in, and then they kind of do the same thing but in their voice. And all that came out, and it was like, oh shit, Drake got ghost writers. Oh, he'll never overcome that. And then people kept fucking rocking with him. Then the Pusha T beef happened. Him and Pusha T gets into it, and then Pusha T drops the Adonis record, where he has the picture of Drake in motherfucking blackface, and it's like, oh my god, he will never overcome this fucking blackface shit. And people continue to rock with him. Then he gets into the beef with Kendrick, and he goats Kendrick. Drop. Like, he's taunting to the nigga, like, I dare you to say something. And then Drake drops the what was it, I think it was called Tailor Made Freestyle, when he did the AI Tupac and AI Snoop Dogg shit. And in the Tupac verse, you know, he's like, oh, tell them that he fucks with young girls. That's a gift from me. And so he was the first one to put out about the whole him fucking with underage girls. And then Kendrick said, okay, nigga, you brought it up, and then you claim that I put my hands on my wife, so I'm going to fucking ether your ass and make this dance record about how you're a fucking pedophile. And there's all this evidence of all this weird shit, which you fucking kissing the 16-year-old girl on the stage early on in your career, after she told you brought her on stage, and you're all up on her, and then you ask her age, and she tells you that she's fucking 16, and then you continue to talk about how her titties felt up against you, and you fucking kiss her, after again you find out that she's a fucking teenager that did not stop you from sexualizing this woman. Then you have the Millie Bobby Brown, who, when she on the red carpet, she, I think, was like 14 at the time, and she's like, oh yeah, me and Drake tets like all the time, and he tells me about boys and what I need to look out for, and we tets all the time, and oh my god, what do you guys talk about? Oh, I can't go into all the details. He was fucking grooming her, and y'all let that shit slide. It's one of those things too, for the people. There are people who, from what I heard from the Drake fans, the lawsuit comes out, and the people who forgave Drake or don't hold the lawsuit against Drake, They say the reason why they don't hold the lawsuit against Drake is because it is not cool to call someone a pedophile. That's a crazy thing to put on somebody's jacket. And I get that. But the reason why that was able to kind of last and make waves is because where there is smoke, there is fire. You can't just come up with a random conspiracy about someone and it just lingers on forever. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, that's weird behavior. Hey, that's weird behavior. Hey, that's weird behavior. And then someone actually comes out and says something, and then it kind of sticks with them. And so if all those videos beforehand hadn't been around, I don't think that pedophile claim would have stuck to Drake the way that it did. And you could also go as far as, like, again, in that battle, Drake called out Kendrick saying that he has beat his wife. And the reason why that didn't stick is because we don't have enough physical evidence that something like that happened. There is no evidence of Kendrick getting in lawsuit trouble. There's no ex-girlfriends that Kendrick, has been known to put his hands on. Him and Whitney are still together, and they still, she was in the Not Like Us video, and they're still around each other, and they still take pictures, and they're still together. Like, that's the reason why the domestic violence stuff didn't stick, because there was not enough virtual evidence out there for it to look like something. But there's enough physical evidence out there of Drake doing wild, weird, sexual shit. So that's the reason why it stuck. I don't know. It's fucking crazy. And just overall, like, again, I am someone who, when Drake first came out, the So Far Gone mixtape, I will say that I really loved that mixtape. And that was at a time when it was a bunch of new artists coming out. Drake came out. That was around when Kendrick first came out, Wale, Kid Cudi, Childish Gambino. There was this whole new generation of artists that were coming out. And I was fans of all of them, including Drake. But the reason why I did not continue to rock with Drake is just quite simply his music did not grow, and he started to act like a mob boss tough guy. And it would be one thing if he was that way from day one, and regardless of if it's real or not, it's just a character that he's putting on. You can kind of suspend your disbelief because he's always been portraying that character, but that is not the case. He came into the game as this, he came into the game proudly a Jewish man from the suburbs who will never talk that tough talk or never talk that gun talk. And he's just this sensitive guy who loves the women and all that. And then he blew up, and then he got a bunch of, he was able to hire guns around him. And then he started talking tough and putting hits on niggas. And that's the reason why I can't rock with Drake. I can't rock with any of that fake tough guy bravado shit. And quite frankly, like I said, Drake just has not grown as a person. I think he's still emotionally a teenage boy who wasn't accepted for being this mixed kid that was raised by a Jewish white woman in the suburbs. And I think that's the reason why he's grown and his music has become so bitter in these later years of his career, is because he has not. There's a lot of childhood trauma that he has not faced and has not processed. And that's the reason why he is emotionally stunted as a human. And that's why we're hearing the type of music and the type of lyrics and the types of themes and concepts from his albums that we are hearing. Drake to me is Taylor Swift for men. How Taylor Swift made a career about how all her boyfriends ain't shit and all these boys, keep breaking up with her and keep breaking her heart and all that. And then it's like, at some point you're going to be like, hey, Taylor, what is it about you that keeps making all these relationships not work? And it's the same thing with Drake. In his 40s now, he is still making songs about, ooh, who can I trust? My friends keep turning their back on me. What is it about you, Drake, that all these people keep fucking turning their back on you? Maybe it's time for you to fucking do that inner work to figure out what's going on. And for those who, are like, oh, no, Drake's music, it hasn't changed in a bad way. When Drake first came out, he was super, super popular. And he was super popular with women in the beginning because his music catered to women. And there's never anything wrong with that. I don't care what y'all say about the Platinum Murder Inc. sound with Ja Rule. Like, them niggas was killing that shit back then. There, LL Cool J. There is nothing wrong with making hip hop rap music that caters to women. If that's your lane, that's your lane. But the problem with Drake is that he went from making this music that resonated to women to him getting older, more bitter, and more isolated, that now his music caters to incels who fucking hate women. Plain and simple. That's what it comes down to. And there was this review, and I wish I could remember where the person worked for, the person's name, so I could, credit it to them. But the greatest take on Drake and Iceman and what the problem is, the guy said that this album was the same Drake with more square footage, just like Ice, taking up more space, but with the same substance. Let me say that one more time. Same Drake, more square footage, just like Ice, taking up more space, but with the same substance. That is fire. Drake just has not grown as an artist, and that is the reason why it's all these other humans who have not grown as humans, these fucking incels who absolutely love his music. And it's a bunch of people who are not part of fucking hip hop culture, who don't stand by anything with hip hop, who continue to rock with him. And then, and lastly with Drake, I can't, outside all the tough guy shit and all that, the other reason why I can't fuck with Drake is he affiliates himself with way too many white supremacists for me. If you go back to the Family Matters video, there was a guy from Hell's Angel that he was dapping up in the scene where they were like at the cemetery or whatever. The Hell's Angel group, that's a white supremacist biker gang. He constantly hangs out with Aiden Ross, who is a fucking white supremacist. And it's crazy, too, that, he hangs out with Aiden Ross. He does all this stuff with Aiden Ross. And meanwhile, his biggest online supporter for the great majority of his career has been DJ Academics. And he just met DJ Academics for the first time like a couple months ago. DJ Academics has been sucking this nigga's dick on camera for 5 fucking years now, saying how great and holy and Drake is greater than Michael Jackson. He's been his #1 online media person, and Drake don't even fuck with that nigga. And then lastly, let's not ignore the fact that when Iceman came out, the White House Twitter account remixed the Iceman cover and had MJ's glove holding an iced out MAGA chain. And there has been quite a few artists who MAGA has either, used their likeness in a certain way, or they've used one of their songs in a certain way for, a certain clip. And those artists have come out and said something and like, hey, no, they've either done like a copyright strike to bring the shit down, or they have, publicly came out and said something about that. Like, no, don't affiliate me with what's going on over there. But for the record, there are 2 people who the White House and this Trump administration has used their likeness, if you will, and they ain't said nothing about it. And those 2 people have been Taylor Swift and Drake. So take that for what you want.
You do the press run, you tell jokes and shit, but like ain't nothing fucking funny. Not to me at least, maybe to you, but not to me. So we made this project, and it's got a lot of similar things, that we spoke about. I started making music, I think, 2009, 2010. My first project, like 2013, Hell Can Wait. We had songs like Fire, and shit like that. Like when I forgot to make the music I wanted to make. And then, they told me, you can't make this, you gotta do hip-hop. Straight hip-hop is gonna translate better with your audience. Whatever the fuck that means. remind me of when we put out Big Fish Theory, and we can chill. Remind me when we put out Big Fish Theory, and we asked if we could put it in electronic or dance, and you know, I was told that the DSPs would get mad because you know you don't belong there. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever, fuck it. You do what you gotta make. You know, they want to kill a nigga, shoot a nigga, rob a nigga shit, even though most of y'all not like that. But that's cool. But that's neither here nor there. We kind of came here to play this new music and share with y'all. It's important. It's our first independent release. Shout out Loma Vista. And shout out everybody that supported it because it's important.
Yo, we got to start having some different conversations about Vince Staples and how he really needs to be in the conversation of the greats. Vince Staples, so that clip was in reference to his new album, Crybaby, which was released June 5th. And Vince has always been known to kind of experiment and try some different stuff. He talked about Big Fish Theory, which is his album that came out, I want to say in like 2013, 2014 or so. But it had like a completely different like electronic sound to it. White people absolutely gravitated to it, fell in love with it. And this was coming off the heels of Vince Staples kind of being introduced to the world through Odd Future. And as you know, Odd Future, Tyler the Creator, Earl Sweatshirt, like when they first came into the game, they were kind of this weird kind of like alternative black kind of super group, if you will. So like it was a lot of white people that rocked with them because they were different, and then it was a lot of black people that rocked with them because quite frankly the music was dope. And Vince Staples kind of got introduced to the world through Odd Future, so then when he dropped Big Fish Theory, his white audience really blew the fuck up. But then again, us black people, we were fucking with Vince and continue to fuck with Vince because he's a dope rapper. Now, with this Crybaby album, which just came out, this was actually his first release as an independent artist after leaving Def Jam. He released this under Loma Vista, which I believe is his record label. But this Crybaby album is a political hip hop, rap, rock, like punk rock album. Like this ain't your stereotypical hip hop record. Like this is a rock album, and I fuck with this album heavy. Like I don't like throwing the term classic out too much because I think all of us have a completely different opinion on what a classic is. But I'm going to say that this album feels like a classic to me. This feels like an album that 20 years from now, I'm still going to be listening to this and the songs from this album. Now he had a pretty decent rollout to this album, which first was a song called Blackberry Marmalade, which was the lead off single, and it's the first song on the album. And the music video came out, and this was in like late April, and I was blown away by the music video. The music video basically is from the POV of a mass shooter who is like outside of like a diner, and they run into Vince Staples and they try to rob Vince Staples, and he's trying to fight back, and Vince Staples gets shot. And then the mass shooter goes into this diner that has nothing but black people in it. And then there's a security guard that's like in the front, but the security guard is so caught up in his bread and circuses, he's on his cell phone laughing at videos, so he doesn't pay attention to this shooter coming into this diner with a gun, and the guy proceeds to shoot and kill just about all the black people within this diner, and then the guy goes outside and kills himself. And when the song came out, it was like, oh shit, wait, Vince is about to be talking about something on this album. Like this is different. Like he seems like he's going to make a statement. Then the very next single came out, and it was White Flag, and White Flag also dropped with the music video, and White Flag also had a ton of symbolism with the music video, as Vince Staple is seen. And actually, let me load this up real quick because I haven't seen this one in a little minute. But this video basically starts off with American flag, and if you look in the back right corner, you could see the silhouette of a KKK person, and the rest of the video is Vince Staples proceeding to paint the American flag in white paint. And then he pulls out an AR-15 and shoots up this white flag, this American flag that has been painted over to be all white, a white flag. And the lyrics on this joint is crazy too, because he talks about, actually, let me scroll up. So he says, sometimes love can turn to war. I've seen it all before, not far from par of the course. Try not to get too lost. It ain't no coming back soon as your back's against the wall. Light as a rock, rough as a hard place, out of the bots because of God's grace. Hard to mourn from the casket, stars are born, I'm nigga galactic. When the pigs see a young black man in traffic, why they treat me like I'm in a UFO. Cuff me in the backseat so I can't phone home. How does it feel to be all alone? Quite familiar. Freeway rock lot familiar. Goliath. Folks get too high. Now it feels like I'm flying. And the chorus goes on. White flag. I don't want to fight no more. This album is fucking incredible, as basically the whole album is about systemic oppression and racism in America. And super kudos to Vince Staples, because before the album had dropped, I was talking to a cousin of mine who's kind of like a little brother to me. We grew up together. We live completely different lives. He grew up in the streets. I grew up in those same streets, but I wasn't banging like him. And we're both 40-year-old adults, but of course we see the world differently because we kind of came up in this world differently. And I was having that conversation with him about music, and how I was like, I'm having a hard time rocking with a lot of artists that I was rocking with from day one. I'll use Jay-Z as an example. Anyone who knows me knows that Jay-Z has been my favorite rapper, since I, was a youngin'. But I was like, for all the shit that's going on with Trump and the rise of how white supremacy and racism is just like cool in America again, and we're like very much so heading back to the 50s and 60s and how things are, I was like, it's way too many black hip hop artists that are not talking about this, and it's driving me nuts. You go back to George Bush, when George Bush got in office, and I remember so many rappers talking about George Bush and talking about politics. I remember Method Man on that DJ Clue mixtape, now that Bush is president, nigga, we all through. Fucking Eminem, White America, he did a bunch of records talking about Bush and how Bush was fucking up shit. Like, you had a lot of people who were referencing what was fucked up, what was going on in America, and now we have the actual fucking Klan in the White House, and a bunch of these rappers is fucking silent because these niggas are capitalists and they're getting money. So they don't give a fuck about what is actually happening to day-to-day black people. And I was telling my cousin, I was like, Jay-Z hopefully has a new project coming soon. Seems like Jay-Z's in the midst of, something coming out soon. I hope Jay-Z has some political statements to make, because if he don't, I may be done fucking with him for a while, because now is not the time for bread and circus. Now is not the time for distractions. We need fucking artists talking about what is going on in the world today. We need some reality rap, some reality music. And so Vince Staples coming out with this album is very important. And as he had said in that clip, you know, he was always trying to experiment. He was always trying to, you know, push the envelope and do certain things, but he was on a major label, and the major label was like, basically, nah, nigga, we need you to keep talking about killing black people. That's what we market. We need that negative shit. So Vince Staples took it upon himself to go ahead and get out of that label and then do things on his own. And I'm so glad that he's putting out this message. I hope that this album fucking I hope everyone listens to it. I hope it gets a ton of fucking spins. I actually just bought the vinyl. Shouts out to physical media. Physical media is very important because we cannot rely on these streaming services. These motherfuckers can pull shit down, or they could edit it with AI like we saw with Netflix and A Different World. Like, people, get back to physical media. You cannot trust these digital platforms. You know, how long we're going to be able to have access to this stuff. But shouts out to Vince Staple. It's a beautiful album, and like I said, kudos to that brother. And I can say that I think Vince Staples is in my top 10 of all time hip hop artists, as this run that he has been on with Crybaby. Before that was Dark Times. Before that was what was it? I think it was called Ramona Park. Yeah, Ramona Park Broke My Heart. And then the album before that, which was the self-titled Vince Staples album. All those albums were absolutely fucking phenomenal. And that's not to take away from FM that came out in 2018. That's not to take away from the Big Fish Theory that came out in 2017. But since 2021, Vince Staple has been like in another stratosphere with his music and with his message. And kudos to that brother. Support him. This is real rap. This is real shit that he's talking about. And y'all just gotta fuck with it. Another album that has been in heavy rotation for me as of late is my boy Isaiah Rashad. Came back, dropped a new album called It's Been Awful, and it came out May 1st, 2026. And Isaiah Rashad has done it again. For those who are not familiar with Isaiah Rashad, I have been rocking with this brother from day fucking one. He is also a rapper on TDE. Top Dog Entertainment, which has brought us a bunch of great hip hop artists like Kendrick Lamar, Absol, Schoolboy Q, and J Rock. It has also brought us SZA, and I think I've heard that Isaiah Rashad is SZA's cousin. I haven't like been able to confirm that like in an interview, but like I heard that. And SZA is on every single Isaiah Rashad album, so they might be related. I don't know, but Isaiah Rashad is a rapper from Chattanooga, Tennessee, who, like I said, is signed to TDE. And I first learned of Isaiah Rashad back in 2014 when he dropped Sylvia Demo, which was basically his debut album, and I was blown away by Sylvia Demo, because the best way I can personally describe Isaiah Rashad's music is, you know, he's a southern rapper, but his music is timeless. That's the best way that I could kind of put it. You know, you could listen to certain records, and certain records, you know, sound like the 90s, or, you know, sound like the early 2000s, or like you could tell like what era that music is coming from because it sounds like that era, if you will. Isaiah Rashad's albums kind of sit like outside of the timeline. Like his albums to me is like, you know, you have the Marvel universe, and like his albums are with the TVA, where they like sit outside of time. I think Isaiah Rashad is fucking dope. Sylvia Demo, like I said, came out in 2014. It is one of my all-time favorite hip-hop albums. I still to this day listen to it heavy. After Sylvia Demo, in 2016, he dropped The Sun's Triad, which was yet again, in my opinion, another classic, timeless, perfect album. That I to this day still listen to this album non-motherfucking stop. And then after that, it was a 5-year hiatus. And then he came out with The House is Burning in 2021. And The House is Burning is actually probably my least favorite album out of all of his albums, because The House is Burning, even though I still would probably give it like a 4.5, 4 to 4.5 mics. I did feel like he was trying to make something a little bit more commercially viable, if you will, because his music is definitely, he has some street shit. He has a lot of very emotionally intelligent raps, and that's the reason why it resonates with me. I'm an emotional bitch. I can't help it. So if you could pluck at my heartstrings with records and be vulnerable, like, I'm a rock with you heavy. And The House is Burning was good, but I felt like commercially he was trying to kind of catch up with the times, or he was trying to make something that maybe would cross over, if you will. Like, he had a record on this album with Lil Uzi Vert, and again, still was a good album, but it's probably my least favorite album of his. And then there was another 5-year hiatus, and then It's Been Awful came out. Now, part of the reason why this album had such a hiatus is because basically Isaiah Rashad's personal life kind of unraveled in real time around us. So in February of 2022, 2 sets tapes leaked online of Isaiah Rashad having sets with other men. One video was him giving head to this guy. There was another video. He was with like 2 Mexican guys, and like they were on their knees giving him a head as he was like, kind of filming, talking shit. And the videos leaked, and the hip hop black community was in uproar. Oh my God. Isaiah Rashad, is this a homosexual? How dare we let a black homosexual male infiltrate our stereo waves? It turned into a big fucking deal. And it turned into a big deal. And Isaiah Rashad, being someone who was already open in his music about his battles with mental health and various things. I don't know the man personally, but from what I can tell, this really, fucked him up to be outed in a way. And I don't think it was necessarily that he was ashamed of who he was, but it was just something that he was just keeping that part of his personal life kind of separate from his artistry. But now it was out for the world to see. And actually, kudos to the Joe Budden podcast. Joe had when that had leaked, Joe was one of the people on his podcast who had was very vocal about who gives a fuck about a nigga's sexual orientation. If he makes dope music, makes dope music. Let's continue to fuck with this dude. And Isaiah Rashad's first like concert back after the whole controversy, he had this like opening clip that played of a bunch of people supporting him and different things like that. And some of the audio from the Joe Budden podcast was on there. And then he had a performance, and this was back in like late 2022, early 2023. And that was kind of like his introduction, kind of coming back to music and being accepted. And he did an interview with Joe, and you could tell he still was kind of confused about his sexuality and how to describe it then, because in the interview that he did with Joe Budden, he said that he identified as being he kind of was like, yeah, I don't know. He was like, I guess, pansexual. And then Joe was like, well, what is pansexual? Can you explain that? And then Isaiah Rashad was basically like, I like people. Like, I don't really look at it from a gender perspective. Like, if I vibe with somebody, if I like them, then I like them. And that's what it is, if you will. But yeah, so I say all that to say that here we are, 2026, and he came back and dropped "It's Been Awful," which is kind of a reference to kind of a joke as he elaborates going throughout the album of how hey, life has been awful since the last time that I've dropped the album. And so yeah, kudos to Isaiah Rashad, and he had did his press run leading up to the album, and he had a very good conversation, I feel, with the Breakfast Club. Even though I'm not the biggest Charlemagne fan, I still understand that when it comes to like mainstream media within the hip hop world, like the Breakfast Club is one of the more important places to go. But Isaiah Rashad went onto the Breakfast Club and then had an open dialogue about his bisexuality and what it's like being a bisexual black male.
What's been awful, Isaiah Rashad? Because when I hear the album title and I listen to the album, but really the album title, it sounds like a confession. Like what's been awful? The industry, your personal life.
I mean, an amalgamation of everything.
Okay.
I'm just a human being at the end of it. I went through some shit to an extent, but it was between being an artist and the expectations of that, and I guess my deconstruction of my masculinity. It's been a lot of getting to know myself.
Who deconstructed it though? Did you deconstruct it, or did you let the court of public opinion deconstruct it? Because I wonder, did you face it before that became public, or were you already dealing with it privately?
I was already dealing with a lot of my own stuff before. I guess it was. I'm blessed to how everything happened with me and the reception of everything, because it allowed me to like step back and really re-examine what I was doing, because regardless of, how much I love myself, I still had to be like, I put myself in a irresponsible situation for anybody to be able to control my narrative. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But at the time, because listening to the project and then hearing you say that, like, you felt like it was like kind of like a blessing of how everything happened. When did you get to that point? Did you instantly feel like, okay, this is a blessing?
Yeah, I mean, at some point in time, I accepted that they don't make a manual for being like a bisexual black dude, or any of that type of shit. They don't have a,
Yeah.
And it was less like hiding myself from anything, or more so like not knowing how to not be ostracized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
also, you got to control your hoes, regardless if they're men or women, because who the hell was recording you?
If you listen to the album, I go into a great amount of detail about where I was at and the influences I was under.
Yeah, you was on. You said you was on
a lot of
meth?
shit.
Wow,
A lot
yeah,
of shit.
okay.
I was on everything under the sun, but that's no excuse for the behavior. And that's the main thing for me was like, I'm responsible for myself, responsible for my family, and all that type of shit. And that's the only. If I have any regret of anything, it's just like not being ahead of it. Because I thought about talking about this stuff on my last album. Because all that tape shit happened before the last album came out.
Before House of Burn?
Yeah. That's why, like, on this album, I talk about how I wasn't being honest with, I guess, like, what I owe the most, like, is my audience. Because they seem to love me pretty genuinely.
I don't like when things like that happen to people. And I'll tell you why. Because I feel like, your personal life is yours to unpack when you want to unpack it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when things like that happen, publicly, you're forced to try to explain things when you may not be ready to explain them yet.
I feel like I've always been under some type of divine guidance. I grew up in a church, and, I kind of grew out of wanting to go as much, but my life has definitely been led, like, I put it like, I feel like it's purposeful. I don't feel like I'm an artist just to make money. Like, I'm here to affect change in some type of way. So I feel like, it happened. It was supposed to happen. And my life is better for it.
Yo, kudos to that brother. And I will say, as a fellow black male bisexual, I get exactly what he means about deconstructing masculinity and just trying to figure out what that means within the black community, within the hip hop community, within the Christian spiritual community, just in this world in general. That all, it resonates with me. And I talked about talked about sexuality. I don't talk about sexuality a lot. Maybe I need to do more of it, and especially considering it's Pride Month. Shouts out to my fellow queers. This month for all of us who represent the various colors and flags of that LGBTQ plus flag. But I know exactly, what he means with deconstructing masculinity and just kind of trying to figure everything out. And I talked very briefly at the end of the podcast that I did. What was that? September of last year. The what was it? The Mr. Burnout and the Unreliable Narrator. Which was, in my opinion, that's my favorite podcast I've done of Sympathy of Thoughts. That was a very kind of powerful, emotional episode. I need to do some therapy, if you will. And that's what that podcast episode was. And then I just talked about sexuality in a quick little brief excerpt at the very end, and to kind of go deeper into it. I identify as gynosexual, which is a term the great majority of people have never heard of. I had never heard of it until a couple years ago. And basically it falls under the bisexual umbrella. And what gynosexual is it's a person who's attracted to femininity no matter what the gender identity is. So in my world, I am absolutely in love with women. I love women of all shapes, sizes, races, color, creeds. I think women are just the most phenomenal, sexiest creatures on earth. And I'm fascinated with women when it comes to watching professional wrestling. I love watching the women, and not just because they're sexy. I love watching women wrestle. When it comes to basketball, I'm a big fan of the NBA, but I also absolutely love the WNBA, and I have League Pass, and I support and love and follow women, and I'm just in love with women in general. And with that is cis women and trans women. I love women. I view women as women. Now, I know that there has been there's always debates online trying to deconstruct certain things, and I know that there is the saying of, hey man, if you're attracted to trans women, that doesn't make you gay. And I do believe that statement is correct in a sense, because I don't identify as gay, and I've never identified as gay because I've never been attracted to men. Masculinity has never been something that I have been attracted to or gravitated to in any sense of the word, if you will. And so I think we as a society, and this is kind of the unraveling, and I also think, again, as I'm autistic and starting to learn that, it's a lot of stuff that I don't view from a neurotypical brain. I think a lot of neurotypical brains and thought processes is putting everything in these neat boxes. And I don't think, especially sexuality and gender, those are two things that you just can't put in neat boxes. You can't put everything in male and everything in female, or then, it doesn't go here or there, let's put it in a third box that's other. I don't think anything is that clean and that clear. A good example of that too is there are trans women who only date other trans women, and they identify as lesbians, and I think that is the correct term, because though they're women and they're attracted to other women. And I again think that we put so many things in a box and and just the world is just way more complicated than that. And I'll also say, it's one of the things I've kind of never understood with society, in the sense that you have so many religious people who just view God as this, omnipotent individual that could just create all these magical things. And it's just this vastness this infiniteness to the universe and to time and all that, and just everything is just so grand on such a grand scale. But then we look at gender and sexuality, and then we put everything in a box, and it's not that simple. And my like I said, my exploring, learning my sexuality, if you will, growing up as a kid, I was never, I was only attracted to women. I only interacted with women. There was never, me hiding feelings for a boy or anything like that growing up. It was, nothing like that. So I just always saw myself as heterosexual. And then as I got older and became an adult and got access to the internet and started, honestly, yeah, porn was some of it. You start seeing a bunch of different things in porn as, oh, what is this? What is that? But even outside of that, learning about the trans community, learning about people who are non-binary, learning about people who are androgynous, I got to see people outside of the box of just male and female. And then things got kind of gray and murky and confusing, where it was like, I'm attracted to these various things, but it's like, it's kind of hard to figure out what to label that because it doesn't fit in, any of these neat boxes, if you will. Oh, excuse me. I do always joke, though, how growing up, me as well as, quite frankly, a lot of men in the world, whether they want to admit it or not, a lot of us were attracted to Prince. And maybe that should have been the side, Prince was very gender fluid, if you will. Maybe that should have been a sign to a lot of us. Jamie Foxx has the whole joke about how he had met Prince and he accidentally looked in Prince's eyes, and then how he was all fucked up in his head, and then Prince's security guard was like, you looked in his eyes, didn't you? And so it's an ongoing joke about men being attracted to Prince, and so on and so forth. But I say all that to say that I think this situation in society and in the world of us trying to put everything in a box is one of the things that causes so much violence and confusion. And quite frankly, I think when it comes to men, I was about to say men in America, but men across, this isn't just an American thing, this is across the world, and a lot of it has to do with religion. But I think this not allowing men to be bisexual, if you will, is the reason why we have so many down low men, and the reason why we have so much violence in the male community when it comes to trans women and when it comes to gay men and the homophobia. I think a lot of it is rooted in insecurities around bisexuality. Very much so. Often you hear instances of this, a chick finding out that this dude is fucking his homeboy, or you hear it all the time from trans women who they're, they'll meet a dude, a dude will be on Grindr or something and be like, oh, I've never done this before. I just wanted to experiment and just try something. And then, that's their little secret thing on the side. And actually, shouts out to Euphoria. Euphoria kind of explored that, not to the degree that they should have, but that came up on Euphoria this past season when Hunter Schafer's character Jewel, who Hunter Schafer in real life is trans, and on the Euphoria show, Jules is shown as a trans woman, and there was a rich guy who basically she kind of became his property, if you will, of he had bought this penthouse and she was staying in this penthouse, but then she was basically his sex toy. He was a married man who was married to a woman, and they had kids. And then when he would be out of town, he'd be with Hunter Schafer having sex with this transsexual woman, and that was his DL download thing. And then there was a whole scene where some boxers got found in the penthouse, and he got upset because he thought that she was sleeping around with someone else, and he was like, oh, you can't be giving me no STDs or whatever because you're just as tranny that I'm fucking, and you can't mess up my marriage. And there's a lot of that, and a lot of that comes down to not allowing men to be comfortable in finding out their sexuality. That's where that toxic masculinity comes from, of being the manly man. That's the only way that you can be in society. You just got to be this manly man. And I think that there's a lot more bisexual men in the world than we know it. And it's the it's the fault of men and women in the sense that men look at other men who are gay or bisexual or any of the other things that are not, heterosexual. They'll look at them as less than. If you look at a man who's a bottom, for instance, and it's like, oh, he's a woman, he's a bottom. That's womanly. He's less than. And the same thing could actually be said with women. There are a lot of women who are uncomfortable with men being bisexual, and there's a lot of women who will go as far as saying that there's no such thing as a bisexual man. That is just a gay man who won't come to terms with him, being gay. Shouts out to Joe Budden podcast. I know I bring up Joe Budden podcast a lot, but it's the main podcast I fucking listen to. But Mona was on the Joe Budden podcast, or she's one of the shouts out to Mona. She does the Don't Call Me White Girl podcast. She's a comedian. But they were talking about, I forgot who it was, but something about bisexuality came up, and then they were having a conversation on the show, and then Mona being the only woman on the show, they started asking her questions to, kind of get the women's perspective, and they were asking her if she would date like a bisexual man, and she was like, well, yeah, she was like, I date a bisexual man. She was like, I really don't care about any of that. And then Mark Lamont Hill was like, okay, let's dive a little deeper into that. And it was like, and as they kind of deconstructed it, as Mona described, if she was talking to a dude and she found out that that dude had fucked another dude, she would be okay with that. But if she found out that he got fucked, or if she found out that he gave head to another guy, she would tap out. She couldn't be in that situation. She would look at him as being gay. And that, again, goes back to that whole putting kind of men and masculinity in a box of that. It has to be specifically this. So shouts out to Isaiah Rashad. I understand what he means about deconstructing masculinity. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, as I always say, all this shit goes back to white supremacy. Capitalism, the patriarchy, toxic masculinity, all of this goes to white supremacy and putting a certain order to how the world works. And in a white supremacist world, the ideology is that men are on top and women are below that. And to be homosexual as a male is to be like a female, which then puts you less than men. And that's where the patriarchy comes from too. And that's part of the other reason why you have a lot of white supremacists who openly hate homosexuality, but, fucking the Republicans crash Grindr every time there's a convention, and it's because they do their homosexuality behind closed doors, because what you're supposed to present to society is you're supposed to present this heteronormative relationship, and you're supposed to procreate and have babies and all that, because again, white supremacy is about keeping the man on top and preserving the right race and continuing to pump out babies. So y'all can do all that gay shit, but do it behind closed doors, because face to face we got to promote this patriarchal heterosexuality, because that's how we are going to keep our bloodline flowing. So yeah, shit, I wasn't even planning on doing a deep dive into sexuality from the Isaiah Rashad. It's been awful album review, but again, the album's dope. For you people who are fucking homophobic, the only homosexual line I guess you can find in the album is on he has a song called Boy in Red, and on the chorus he says he's talking to this person, I think it's a girl from the chorus or whatever, but he's talking and like saying how I want to be your boyfriend, if not at least I can be your girlfriend. And I think more so he means metaphorically of like, if we can't be in a relationship, I'll be your girlfriend, like I'll be like your homie, someone that you could talk to and all that. But I know some people heard them like, oh my God, he's saying if I can't be your boyfriend, you can fuck me in the ass. Because again, you motherfuckers are just so triggered in society. Yeah, just wanted to kind of, I don't know, unpack all of that. And again, kudos to that brother, and kudos to my fellow black bisexuals out there. We're gonna figure this shit out somehow, some way. And I guess keeping it all the way gay right now, I actually finally got out of the fucking house recently, end of May, and I got to go see my favorite current artist right now, Damage, perform with Amber Ryan on the Kill the Radio tour. Yeah, shouts out to them. For those of y'all who have listened to this podcast, since its inception, any of y'all who follow me on social media know I am constantly reposting, talking about Damage. I'm a super big fan of Damage, who is a trans hip hop rapper. She's from New Orleans, but she moved to Los Angeles, California, I want to say like 3 years ago, and has just been going super hard on the hip hop tip. She's also an activist, very hardcore leftist, and I absolutely fucking love her music. I talked about it on the podcast last year because the last time she had came to Phoenix was actually the day that Charlie Kirk got killed. She performed in Phoenix at the Rebel Lounge that night, and that was a incredible performance. And I had just recently been introduced to her music around then. And I've been playing it, nonstop since then. I was originally introduced to her self-titled album, Damage, which had came out in 2022. And Damage is a fucking incredible album. I would, I guess, describe it as Good Kid, Mad City, Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City, but for queer people. Damage, in the beginning of their career, when their first album, The Present Moment, came out, at that time, Damage identified as non-binary. And there was a lot on The Present Moment where basically there is one side of Damage on songs, which is the non-binary masculine side of them, and how like that person was very kind of like emo in a lot of their raps and all that. And then Damage is presented as like this separate entity who was more like kind of feminine and reckless and just, just different. And so like there was a lot of back and forth between the two on the first album, The Present Moment. And then the Damage album that came out, it was a whole fucking story and narrative about these two people kind of attempting to coexist in the same world. And basically it was Damage coming out as transgender on the album, and it was just a super dope theoretical story about how you present yourself to the world versus who you are in the inside in this internal battle. And like I was blown away by the fucking project and fell in love with it. And like I said, that led to I found that album around the time when Damage was starting to promote the Blind tour, which Blind was her follow-up album. To which then, I went to that show last September when Charlie got kirked, and had a real good time at that show. And it's funny, so going back to that show, there was a trans woman that I was talking to at the time, and they weren't really a big hip hop person. They're more of a rock person, but they like going to concerts. So I bought tickets for the two of us back then last September for us to go to the show. They spent the entire show on the patio smoking, talking to everyone else. And so I spent the show, by myself, and I still fucking enjoyed it. I had a great time. But then going into the show this year at the end of May, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to invite that person again, even though we're still, friends. We're still cool. We still talk all the time. But I'm not going to invite her out to the show because I don't, want to be there alone. And so one of my homegirls that I grew up with, I invited them out to the show, and they were excited. They were going to come to the show. And then literally the day of the show, they got sick. I found out as I was in my car getting ready to drive to the show that they could not make it. And so they flaked on me last minute. I'm picking on you, Bree. Still love you. But yeah, so they couldn't make it. So then my black ass again went to a Damage show by myself. And it's funny because Damage has a very white transgender fan base. And so here I am at this Damage concert, and I'm the fucking 40-year-old black cis male in an audience of a bunch of white queers and a couple other black queers. But yeah, I'm the only fucking old guy, and like, I don't know, I always just feel weird in all events, but it was funny. But again, I had a phenomenal fucking time, and actually I got some footage from the show that I'm gonna play. Some of it is just some quick clips, 3, 4, 5 second clips of some of the performances and all that, and then some more extended clips, of course, once the love of my life Damage gets on stage. But let me go ahead and cue that up.
Radio. There it's written with a 3 instead of the E.
My demeanor is so the keyhole is soulless. Ain't no life before this the greatest. They don't know yet. Chosen these critics ain't much in the mind of the poets. You need. I can never really keep high peak mind of a child in your body want custody. Matter of fact, let me keep my deep and then flows like ghosts and white sheets. Let me get IT. Don't make me that 4 or 5. A demo mixtape that I put together on the road. It's just a little piece of me that I'm gonna take. Shimmy up in the waist, I swear to fucking God. Sing that shit louder, Phoenix, let's go. I've seen all the evil, you could never hear it. Historically repeated, try to countersteer it. Shame white, I colonize and round. Understand, comics, they chase like contributed. Yeah, we all try. Yes, we all try. To build these villages, to build an empire. Everybody gotta make some sacrifices. And blood on their hands, that's just what the price is. We all understand, we all got the demo. I'm gonna have to go full metal. What? Hands up, let's go. Now tell me what you want, what you really want. Freedom through, freedom from, above, what you do for it? Would you shoot for it? Would you demonize people in the news for it? Wanna run the country? You won't lose a shoe store. Froggy ass bitch, get more, lead us lukewarm. We all want the same thing, like one and more. Got nothing to lose, no wrong. No forms in extinction first. Then that time is running out, so who gon' get there first? We all born with bloodlust, so who gon' quench your thirst? You want your hands free from dirt? Who gon' get alert? Revolution, unity, revolution, unity, love. Show my way to God. Revolution, unity, love of everything I'm not. Revolution, unity, love is this evolution of us. It's just another swing back of my life. Had you love, girl, you look good. Girl, you look good. Girl, you look good. Keep it going, y'all. Girl, you look good. Girl, you look good. Girl, you look good. So I say, girl, you look good. As you walk down the street, you say, girl, you look good. Martin gets her degree, you say, girl, you look good. Never give mercy, you just say, girl, you look good. Daddies around the world, better let her know. So your bestie and his sister, hope and make a cup of tea. So we had like the first couple days off of Arizona, how do I know what I know? In the check, let me go tackle my bro. Can I trust you the last time? I sound like wax. This is my testimony. You're over what you'll never actually know. So that you know back home, so it's not actionable. This ain't about battle. This ain't about that. You are missing life with what's inside your body. I got no one to be. I'm never what's that. It's driven if my heart's too deep. Fucking real grin. I'm trying to make a hey, yeah. Don't let it go, God. So I gotta thank God. the truth. I got battles to choose, the war for my inner peace. Privilege I abuse, but that comes from my culture. Only care about myself, I'm deep clean in my soapbox, prolonging my suffering. So that my fans see me as a hero. So if I die on my feet, they'll perceive the meaning. My body's lying on the street, they cannot stop the bleeding. And yet the war rages on, our resources depleted. What if there is no victory in violence? What if we took over the country, restarted the cycle? When will we lose our humanity and turn into tyrants? The desperate quest for love and acceptance through others' eyes is seemingly self-defeating until you see the hostility that we see towards our breathing. We want to coexist, but when you pose a threat, somebody's throat can slit, and it won't be mine. If it's down to me and you, I'll pick me every time. Yeah. And if it's down to me and you, I'll pick me every time. I'll pick me every time. I'm saying, should I stay or should I go? If I'm such a punk, but it's clashing in my soul. If I chose a wrong, could I still live with myself? If I stood my ground, would it not matter at all? What matters to you? Happiness or the truth? The passenger or the coup? The war for my inner peace. Privilege I abuse. I'm wondering if I'm weak. Asking God what to do. I'm finally on my knees. I just wanna be human. Want to fall in love with everything that I'm doing. Deeply tasting my food. Reconnect with my roots. Give my inner child hugs. Meditate under the moon. Meditate under the sun. And swim in lakes until I'm through. So if I flee, I'm not a coward, I'm just choosing peace. I'm chasing love and I'm escaping greed. Escape the narrative of everything I claim to be. And be everything I aim to be. Phoenix, let me ask you, should I stay or should I go? If I'm such a punk, why does passion in my soul? If I chose to run, could I still live with myself? If I stood my ground, would it not matter at all? What matters to you? And what matters to you? Cause we wanna play God, put faith in the word. The feeling's too wide, I'm not able to eat. 3 more degrees and we won't be able to eat. 2 centuries and destroy the Garden of Eden. 1 people separate never made no sense to me. 0 fuck giving if you wanna go. Cause I was made in the image of God. You just get back to feel the pain. We are reflections of us. Phoenix, let me hear it. You disconnected from the faith. We are reflections of us. Thank you so much.
It's written with a 3 instead of the E!
Oh my God. That was a good show. I really enjoyed myself, and her song Should I Stay or Should I Go, that is like probably top 3 one of my favorite Damage records, and I get extremely emotional every time I hear that song. I understand all the pain that she's talking about through that song. And then in the video for those watching on YouTube, the reason why the crowd cheered at that moment, because she kisses her girlfriend who's on the stage. She's a photographer, and so she's on stage taking photos of the show. And so on that part, she goes over and kisses her girl and talks about being with someone who accepts you for who you are. And oh my God, I melt. But yeah, it is funny. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm absolutely infatuated with Damage, and I was upset at myself because I did not stay after the show. I wanted to I had bought a poster of her. I wanted to get the poster signed. I wanted to dap her up, tell her how big of a fan of her music, that I was. We had a pretty cool moment at the last Blind concert when, as I talked in the last episode, she did her performance of the song Blind, but she starts off blindfolded. She took the blindfold off, threw it in the audience, and I caught it, had her sign it afterwards, wherever. We had a real good conversation. She was, telling me how great my energy is and all that. And I wanted to be like, hey, remember me? I'm the guy that, you know, caught the blindfold the last time and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I didn't. Well, I also wasn't feeling good that day. I had allergies of working outside, you know, being back outside working, and my body getting used to it. That was the first couple weeks of me, you know, working this gig. And so I was sick that morning. I had drunk an emergency on the way up to the show because I was like, I'm not fucking missing this show. I don't care if I go by myself. But then kind of the culmination of being kind of there by myself the whole day, just being my weird, awkward, autistic self while also being by myself and then being, you know, wrapped up in emotions of the show. And once the show ended, I was exhausted. So as soon as it was over, I kind of dipped out and I wish I would have stayed. But anyway, I say all that to say that it was actually funny because then I had a dream about Damage like actually it was like a week or two ago, so it was a couple weeks after the show. But regardless, I had started journaling again recently because just, you know, as I had mentioned at the top of the show, I've been battling some depression as you know, just everything that's going on in life in general. And I kept wanting to do this podcast, but just kept not having the energy to do the podcast. So then I was like, okay, let me start journaling. I need to put these thoughts, these emotions somewhere, if you will. And then around when I started back journaling, I've been having lucid dreams again. And I've been trying to be more mindful of the second I wake up from a lucid dream. Like, let me go ahead and document it so I could, you know, not forget it, if you will. And so yeah, so I have my journal and I had wrote about that dream that I had. And so basically in the dream, it was like me, her, and several other people, and we all lived together in an apartment. So it was like, I don't know, maybe 5 of us that were real good friends, and we all lived in this apartment together. And I was cooking like a steak or something, and I think it was like maybe my first time ever cooking the steak or cooking steak, and I didn't quite know what I was doing. And Damage had said something to me, I can't remember, but whatever it was, it really had like hurt my feelings in the dream. So like she said what she said, and like I didn't even say anything smart back. I just kind of got hurt and kind of walked away. And she was joking, but you know, I took it to heart and I went into like another room. And then when I came back into the kitchen, she was kind of like cooking the steak. And then it was interesting because in the dream, it was like her way of apologizing without actually, you know, physically saying sorry. And then it was weird because like in the dream, we had this intense, like romantic we had these like intense romantic emotions towards each other, but we were like such good friends that we didn't want to display the romantic emotions out of fear that the relationship, you know, wouldn't work. And then the, you know, friendship would be damaged as a result. So instead of chasing the romantic side of it, we were just comfortable with being friends, if you will. So it was like this unspoken love between the two of us. And I say all that to say that it was a very interesting dream. That was the first time Damage had ever, you know, been in a dream of mine. But one of the main reasons why I had wrote it or, you know, made sure to document it was for those who can lucid dream. It's amazing how we can go to sleep and go into these dreams where we're kind of like in a completely different reality with a completely different history and these completely different emotions. And it was weird, like waking up and, you know, deconstructing those emotions that I had just spent in that dream. And like literally, like I said, in the dream, I could feel my love I had for them, and I could feel their love that they had for me. But then I could also feel the anxiety that the two of us had of how it could ruin a great friendship. And like, it blew me away just how powerful the dreamscape and dreams can be. You know, there's those stories about people who, you know, get in a car accident and they're in a coma. And then there was one story about some woman that came out of a coma. I think she had been under for like, I don't know, maybe a week. But she came back and she kind of had a mental health breakdown because during the coma, she basically lived like another life for like 30 years and was married and had kids and all that. And she woke up and like all that was gone. And I remember hearing that story and I was fascinated by the story. And I thought the story was interesting because I am someone who I do remember specifically a time having a dream where I woke up and I swear that dream like months had passed. In the dream, I would go to sleep and I would wake up, I would go to work and I get off work and I was with, you know, a completely different family and kids. And then I would go to sleep and wake up. And like when I had woke up, I remember just being so fucking confused because it was like I had been asleep for like 8 hours, but it was like months had passed. And so I don't know. It's interesting. Dreams are interesting. And like I said, it was interesting having Damage appear in one of my dreams since, like I said, I'm utterly infatuated with this woman. And I don't care what y'all think about that because that's life and that's what it is. We should all have a muse, if you will, someone that we look up to or that inspires us. And I guess that's the best way I can put it is that Damage is my muse. And I absolutely love her music and her message. And I was talking to a friend of mine and the friend was kind of like asking what, you know, the big deal is for me and with Damage and their music. And I had explained where like there's a lot of different artists that resonate with me in a certain way. And I say this as I look up at the wall in my bedroom and I have these vinyls up on these shelves in my room. And I have like the Childish Gambino Camp album. And that album resonates with me because it reminds me of the emotions and the feelings and things that I went through when I was in grade school. And then I have Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City. And Good Kid, Mad City reminds me of when I was a teenager and, you know, in my early 20s, growing up in the hood, growing up in South Phoenix, where I wasn't the nigga that was gangbanging, but I was around all these people doing all this crazy shit. And I was just this good kid in this mad city. And then I look over at Because the Internet, another Childish Gambino album, and how it resonated with me and really reminds me of my 30s and how, you know, I was struggling with isolation and just trying to find happiness in this world and, you know, what all of it meant where I was trying to go. And then lastly, I look at the Kendrick Lamar, Mr. Morale, and the Big Steppers vinyl that I have up on my wall and how that album saved my life after the divorce. That album very much so was a black therapy album of him deconstructing and figuring out a lot of stuff of what's going on in him. And so I say that to say that those are like 4 albums that are very heavy in my heart. Each one of them kind of represents a different decade in my life. And then Damage's music resonates with me because Damage is one of the first artists where her music speaks to like my inner child, speaks to my teenage rebellious side, and speaks to my, politically aware, fight the power, adult side, and, you know, my, figuring out my identity and where I fit in this world and, you know, who I present myself as versus who I am on the inside and just how I navigate this earth. And like Damage, their music kind of strikes all those chords. And that's the reason why, you know, again, I just learned of her music about a year ago and I already have her in my top 10 just off of these, you know, 3-4 projects that she's put out because they have really just struck a chord with me. So kudos to Damage, kudos to Amber Ryan, who they have the joint together called Kill the Radio. They have a couple singles, Same Things, Brazilian, and the self-titled Kill the Radio videos all on YouTube. And I fuck with them heavy, and they're good people, and I just want to see good people win. And we live in a world of white supremacy running rampant, and so I am going to always root for everything black. I'm going to always root for everything woman. And I'm always root for everything queer because fuck the patriarchy.
How hot is hot?
So I guess the last thing before we get out of here is part of the other reason for my hiatus of the past couple of months, and also part of the reason why I've been dealing with depression since March. Like I said, life has been lifing, and just a lot of drastic changes and things I've been going through, for the past decade. The latest charade to be added to all of that was I had a real big fallout with my mom in the beginning of March, and I evicted her from my house, and I have gone no contact with her. Now, I was essentially raised in a single parent household. My dad wasn't around a lot when I was a kid. Like, we would see him here and there. He'd be around for a couple months. He'd disappear, for a while, then, pop up, so on and so forth. And it wasn't until I had open heart surgery when I was 17, and my dad was actually the last person that I had talked to before they wheeled me to the back to do the surgery. And, he like shook my hand, and then like he held on to it for a while. Like, I tried to like pull my, or, I thought the embrace was over. And then as I got ready to like kind of pull my hand away, he was still kind of like holding my hand. And that always resonates with me, because I think that around that moment, I'm 17, I'm having open heart surgery. And I think that kind of finally like registered with him of, this is my only son. And I've been like in his life part-time. And so then, Pop stepped up, and he had, been around me, or had been around, and I've always been able to, get a hold of him since then. But I say all that to say that those first like 17 years of my life, it was me and my mom for the most part. So I was a mama's boy growing up. And then since I've been an adult, our dynamic has changed in the sense that now I have been the parent for a lot longer than she was the parent. I remember after going through the separation, as I was going through the divorce, and I was going to therapy, and unpacking a bunch of stuff, my mom came up often in therapy, and that was one of the things that my therapist kind of mapped out to me. Was she was like, you and your mom at some point in your 20s, y'all, the dynamic shifted, where you became the guardian, if you will. You became the caretaker. Like, your guys' roles kind of switched at some point in your 20s. And I know that adds a lot of kind of stress to your life. And like, she was working with me to try to figure out some ways back then to help my mom kind of get out on her own. Because a little more background into that, my mom's never really worked my whole life. She's been physically and emotionally disabled my entire life. So it was government assistance that we grew up on. She was on Section 8 until at some point in my early to mid 20s. She got kicked off of Section 8. I still don't know all the information behind that, but I know that it's difficult to get back on the Section 8. We tried a couple times. There was like this lottery system that you got to fill something out, and then they may call you between this certain time to then enroll you, and it's only X amount of people that get enrolled every year. And if you're not one of the people that gets enrolled, then you have to wait until the next year. It was a very convoluted system of trying to get her back into Section 8. But at some point in the early 2010s, she had got evicted from this apartment complex that she stayed at, and that was the last apartment complex that she was able to afford on her own with the check that she gets from the government. And so after she had got evicted from that place, she had moved in with me, my wife, and kids for a while. She stayed in the second bedroom, and she stayed with us for a couple of months. And then my wife, even though she was never fully open and honest, and I couldn't get all the details, I could tell, was uncomfortable with my mom staying with us. So eventually what I ended up having to do was, I had moved my mom into this apartment complex, and then I was basically helping supplement her income, where I was having her basically spend like 80 to 90% of her check on rent in, you know, her phone bill, different things like that. And then I was supplementing the rest of the income. And then she was in the studio apartment for a while, and I was, you know, maybe it was like $150 a month that, you know, I was helping her with. And then something happened with that complex where they then upped the rent by a whole bunch, and then it made more sense, instead of keeping her in that one bedroom, to move her to the studio apartment, which still was going up in the rent. So then it went from me, instead of $150 a month, it went up to like $300 a month. I was helping with supplementing her income. And then eventually the U.S. government caught on that I was helping with her rent, and that her rent was higher than what her, you know, monthly check was from the government. And then basically the government was like, oh, so since someone is clearly helping supplement your income, how much your income is being supplemented by, we're going to take that amount away from future checks. So then that in turn meant that I had to supplement even more of her income. And then it was like, shit, all this is going to do is going to start a chain reaction of them keep, you know, doing this audit, cutting more and more, to eventually just try to get you off of SSI. That's all that they're trying to do. They're trying to not give you a check anymore. And so, you know, this going back to, what was that, 2022, 2023, I'm trying to figure out what exactly I'm gonna do with that situation, because like shit is all fucked up. And then that's around the time me and my wife at the time had to fall out, and then I ended up moving out and getting my own place. And it was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to pay my own bills out on my own, take care of my kids, and supplement her income. It was like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do all this. So then what I ended up having her do was move in with me. And so she moved in to the apartment complex that I had, and it was a small 2-bedroom apartment complex. It was the first 18 months of the co-parenting situation. And my mom at the time had 2 cats. So I had her in the second bedroom, and then the living room was basically my boys' room. They had their 2 beds in the living room, and we were just all kind of packed like sardines in this fucking apartment complex for about 18 months. And the first few months in the apartment complex, me and my mom had a couple of, we bumped heads a couple of times. One time, and again, mind you, at this time, I'm also working, and I work from home a lot. And I think back then I was working from home full time, if I remember correctly. So also in the kitchen is where my office desk was. And so I'm working at home. It's summertime. The boys are home from school. So then they're in the living room playing video games, doing what they're doing. I'm fucking 15 feet away in the kitchen in my office desk working, and like my mom had came in from the bedroom, and she was pissed off. Something was going on with her phone. It kept like rebooting or something like that. And then she came out of the room accusing me and my ex-wife of messing with her phone on purpose to piss her off, because me and my ex-wife were mad at each other. Like, I don't know. It was very convoluted. I didn't quite understand what my mom was trying to allude to. But then she had said something like, oh, and you know, when I see that white bitch, I'm gonna punch her, you know, in the mouth. And I was like, yo, chill. Like your grandkids, the children of that white woman that you just said how you're gonna fucking assault, they're 10 fucking feet away. I don't know if they hurt her or anything like that, but it was like, I had told her, hey, I was like, step outside. Like, I wanted to continue the conversation with her, but I'm not going to argue like this in front of the kids. So I told her, you know, to come outside. And again, this is 18 months ago. I'm kind of setting up the story of how we got to where we're at. But yeah, so I told her to come outside, and then she was like, oh, what you gonna do? You gonna hit me? And it's like, what the fuck are we talking about right now? And me and her end up making up, you know, at some point. But me being someone who went through therapy, that moment really resonated with me, because my mom has a lot of childhood trauma that she never processed, and she doesn't realize that a lot of the reasons why she is the way that she is because of these childhood traumas that she did not process. One of those childhood traumas is her dad apparently was a complete absolute piece of shit, and I say that with all due respect. I never met the man. Apparently he passed away while she was pregnant with me, but as you go around and talk to different people on my mom's side of the family, everyone rants and raves about Granny and how even though Granny, you know, was tough on everyone, she was like the matriarch of the family. Everyone talks about Granny with such love, but nobody ever talks about him. And it's because he was an abusive piece of shit. He would drink and beat the shit out of his wife. He'd beat the shit out of his kids. I know my mom had told me a story. I don't know exactly how old she was, but he was like drinking, sitting in a chair, smoking a cigarette one day, and she was like a young kid, and he had told her to come over, walk over there, and she walked over there, and then he took his cigarette and put it out in her eye. Like, that's how fucking deranged this motherfucker was. Like, something was wrong with him. And he had a family, or he had, you know, a wife, and he had 4 daughters and a son, and he was just an abusive piece of shit, and he ended up, you know, dying. But I say all that to say that in conversations I've had with my mom over the years, I could tell that it's a lot of that trauma she did not process. And like, I remember one time back then at that apartment complex, she was talking about her sister, my aunt, and my aunt had she was on even though she's almost 70, she was on Facebook dating, and she met some guy, and they had been going out, and you know, she's, you know, telling my mom about things, and now my mom is someone who has only had like 5 boyfriends her entire life. And my mom has been single in those 5 boyfriends, if you put all the years together, it probably adds up to about 7-8 years. So like, my mom has been single the great majority of her life. And she was talking shit about her sister, and she was like, you know, she always got to be, you know, up under some niggas. She can't ever, you know, just be happy, be by herself. And then I'll never forget, my mom was like, you know, I ain't got time to be, you know, with no man, because all he wants to do is make you a slave and beat on you. And I remember her saying that, and me thinking, shit, you just described your dad. Like, you don't realize that that's part of the reason why you have not been able to be in a happy relationship with a man, or that's one of the reasons why over the course of your lifetime, is because how abusive your dad is. That's your assumption of what all men are. Furthermore, I had a conversation with my mom back then about sexuality, and it's one of those things where like, me and my mom have never really had any type of sexuality conversations, and that is because her being someone who has not really been in many sexual relationships. Like, it's kind of hard to have any type of conversation about sexuality with a person who is never in relationships. And I had a conversation with her one day, and it was when Wayne Brady had came out as pansexual, and she came into the kitchen while I'm working one day, and she cracked the same old boomer joke that they all crack. Oh, Wayne Brady's a pansexual. What does that mean? He's attracted to pans? And I had told her, well, no. I was like, that means that, you know, he's attracted to. He doesn't really care about gender. He's attracted to who he gets along with, and that's that. So, you know, he could date a cis woman, he could date a trans woman, he could date a cis man, he could date a trans man, he could date someone that's intersex, androgynous, non-binary. Like, gender does not matter. He likes who he likes. And then I think she had asked me what the difference between that and like bisexual was. And I was like, well, bisexual is someone who likes, you know, more than one gender. So they, you know, like men or they like women, but it doesn't mean that they like everybody, because there's more than, you know, 2 genders, if you will. And then I proceeded to kind of go through the alphabet and explain what each one of the different alphabets were. And then I had got to A, and then I was like, the last one is asexual. And I was like, that's someone who just isn't interested in having like sex at all. And I was like, and I told her, I was like, and honestly, I was like, technically you're asexual. I was like, you have spent the great majority of your life not in any type of romantic relationships and not interested in romantic relationships, you are technically asexual. And she was just like, oh, and then she walked away, and then we never had that conversation again. But it was my way of trying to explain to her how she, in her being someone who was homophobic, who taught shit about gay people and everyone, she's a fucking bigoted boomer. I was trying to have that moment to help her understand that you are part of that alphabet. Some of those colors on that flag is for you, but you don't realize it because you don't want to learn anything and you want to be stuck in this fucking Christian ideology bubble. You still want to be brainwashed by this white supremacy religion that has ingrained in all of y'all that Jesus is white and that all these things are bad and evil, and that you could be this Christian, this hypocritical Christian that looks down on all people, but because you believe in Jesus, that means you're better than everyone and you're going to get to heaven, and everyone else is going to go to hell because they're pieces of shit because they don't believe in Jesus the way you believe in Jesus. Like, I can go on and on about Christians, and I have on other podcasts, so I'll just leave it at that. But anyway, I set the stage by saying all that to say that those were some of the struggles, some of the conversations, things that happened during that first 18 months that we lived in that apartment complex. And then once that lease was up, I ended up buying this townhouse. And this townhouse I bought was a 4-bedroom townhouse. I bought it specifically for that, where she had her own room downstairs. And then my boys, who are both, fucking teenagers now, each one of them have their own separate rooms. And it, just gave us all space. So we weren't, cramped, stacked on top of each other like we were in that previous apartment. And since we moved over here, things have been going well. It was basically, what was that, October 2024 was when I bought the place. So again, almost about 18 months living here and really not having too many issues. And me and her bumped heads at one point back in the summer of last year. And we had bumped heads because she had, so it was like a weekend where, so this is going back to, and I talked about this on The Pursuit of Happiness when I talked about all the fucking house issues and all the shit that I was going through, and how the upstairs bathroom was fucked up and how we all had to share my bathroom. So this was during that time period. But it was like summertime, kids are out of school. I was off work this day. And so I'm downstairs in the living room watching TV, and she had been in her room downstairs with the door closed all day. And then finally it was like 3 p.m. She got up and she was kind of groggy, and it was like, oh, something is wrong with her. She doesn't feel good. And then I just, having grown up with her, I know when she doesn't feel good, kind of walk on eggshells and kind of stand back, because when she's having a bad day, if you say or do the wrong thing, you're going to have a bad day. She's going to take her bad day out on you. And so she had woke up and she was like, is it okay if I take a shower? I'm like, oh yeah, go ahead. And so she goes upstairs and she took a shower. And then after the water ended, I could hear she was still up there for like another 30 minutes. And then finally she came down. And then when she came down, she was so frustrated. It was like as if she was trying not to cry. And I'm like, what's going on? And then she was explaining to me how like the tub was clogged. And I'm like, okay. And then she's describing how there was like soap in the drain. And I'm like, okay. And again, like I said, she's like very emotional. So this is me, like, she's talking, but I'm having a hard time making sense of everything that she's saying, because she's kind of hopping all over the place. And then and so I'm like trying to get what she's trying to pick up. And then finally I realized that what she's trying to say is that the bathtub was clogged because not only was there soap in the drain, but someone maliciously pushed soap into the drain. And so I hadn't seen the soap. I hadn't seen what happened. And so I had asked her, I was like, could the soap had, because like how the tub is, there's like the where you put the soap, and if the shower head is pointing towards the wall, it could hit the area where the soap is, and the soap could fall into the tub. And so I had asked her, I was like, could the soap had just like fallen in the tub? And then she got pissed off. She's like, oh my God, I'm not stupid. I know what I'm saying. I'm like, calm down. I'm like, I didn't call anyone stupid. I was like, I'm trying to ask more clarifying questions because I didn't see what you saw. And so that's why I'm trying to understand like why you came to the conclusion that you came to. And like I said, again, she got frustrated, she stormed off, we got into a big fight. And then so we didn't talk for like a day or something. And then it was like a couple days later, we had went to the grocery store. And again, like I said, she had been in a bad mood with her door closed, not talking to anybody. And then we went up to the grocery store, and then she needed to get her prescription. And so while she went to get her prescription, me and the boys are standing over by the soap because my boys are into this EOS soap lotion stuff. And then they have all these different scents and all that. And so the boys are talking about the different scents and which ones they like, and we're having all this conversation. And so then my mom comes over and she's pissed off because she's mad at the pharmacist for whatever reason, and then she asked for my keys so she can go put her prescription in the car because she didn't want to carry it around. But then like I have a basket, we could just put it in the basket, but that's whatever. Okay, so I gave her the keys, and then she came back, and then part of the reason why we had went to the grocery store that day was that she had said, because she gets food stamps, and then she has the 2 years that she had been staying with me, she had always spent those food stamps on herself. I never asked her to buy groceries for the house because I know that I'm taking 95% of her check. And so it's like, at least if she has her food stamps, I don't have to worry about buying food for her and all that. But going into this week, and before we got into that fight, she was like, oh yeah, she was like, when the boys come this week, she was like, I want to make sure we buy groceries. We go out to eat too much, I'll buy some stuff for all of us to eat at the house. So I'm like, cool. So she comes back in from putting her prescription up, and then she's like, oh, okay, so how much are you going to spend on groceries with me? And immediately in my head, that's not the conversation that we had beforehand. And so, and I don't even know how much money I have in the bank at that moment. And so I was just like, well, just get what you need, and we'll just I'll figure out what else we're going to do later on. I just kind of left it at that. So then I'm pushing the car, we're following her around, and she's getting stuff. And then, and when we first got to the store, my mom drinks a ton of pop. For her to be a diabetic, all she fucking does is drink Pepsi. And when we first came into Fry's, she had saw some Pepsi, and she had saw the Pepsi, and it was on sale, but it wasn't the Pepsi that she wanted. I don't know why, but she was like, I'll look elsewhere. And I'm like, okay. So then we get to the pop aisle, and as we're walking down the pop aisle, the boys mentioned something about the Dr. Peppers, because there's like new flavors of Dr. Peppers of like cherry and blue raspberry and other things. And so we stopped there, and we're talking, and then she continues to walk. And then she had came back, and then she was like, let me see the cart. And then so I had let her grab the cart, and then me and the boys are continuing to, talk about what we're talking about. And then we got done talking, and then I look over, and then she is actually, grabbing some Pepsi, and then she's trying to put it under the cart. And so then I walk over there because the cart's kind of like moving, and I kind of like stop the cart to try to, kind of help her. And then she got mad, and she was like, she's like, all these damn men here, and they can't, none of y'all help me pick this up. And I'm like, yo, relax. If you need help, can simply say something. We came in the store, you looked at some Pepsi, you said that wasn't what you were looking for, then you walked off, and then we're down the aisle, and again, you walked off again, and me and the boys are in the middle of a conversation. I don't know if you found what you're looking for, I don't know what you're doing or whatnot. You're not communicating anything, and then you're getting mad that we're not reading your mind. And like I got angry with her, and I had raised my voice, and then she's like, you raised your voice at me and all these white people here. I was like, I don't give a fuck who is at the store. Like, what are we talking about right now? We're arguing about absolutely nothing. Like, again, all you simply had to say was, hey, I found what I'm looking for. Hey, can you guys grab this? I don't know what you're grabbing. I don't know what quantity you're grabbing. I don't know any of these things. I don't know what's going on in your head. And so that was that. And then the boys end up, going home that week. And then me and her, a couple days later, she wanted to have a conversation with me. And we had a good long, like 2-hour conversation where I explained to her about her emotional instability and how she goes from 0 to 100 and how difficult it is to be able to be around those emotions, if you will, because again, it's like you don't communicate things and then you're elsewhere, and then I'm trying to have logical conversations with you, but then you go up to 100, and then me in defense mode, I go up to 100, and now we're arguing about something that we shouldn't be fucking arguing about. There's no reason for us to be raising our voice at each other when some fucking soap fell into a drain, and there's no reason for us to be raising our voice at each other when you're trying to get some pop at a store. But again, the point I was trying to drive home with her is that she'll get disrespectful with someone and then someone gets disrespectful back, if you will, and she never sees her disrespect that started the altercation. She only sees how people react to her. And I was like, you really need to control that. And I had also called out a reoccurring thing that had been going on since we had started living at this townhouse. The backyard of these townhouses, there's like these 6-foot walls. So like it's, my townhouse, there's a townhouse, wall to wall next to us, but then the fence is like 6 feet high, so you can't really see who's over on the other side in the other backyard unless you're standing looking over it, or if you're tall, so on and so forth. And since we had been living here, she had beef with our next door neighbor. And she's like, oh yeah, she's like, every time and actually if we step back a little, I feel like I'm hopping all over the place. Actually, let's step back. One other important thing to bring up before I get into the backyard situation. The first week that we moved into this townhouse, the garage door stopped working, and so the sensor wouldn't work, and so I have to manually lift up the garage and then back the car in, then close the garage lock, and so on and so forth. And this happened the first, when I did the inspection, everything was working. Then when I moved into the place, the garage door doesn't work all of a sudden. So first 2 weeks that we're here, I'm doing that every time I'm coming and going, and then 1 week I'm sick of fucking manually lifting up this garage, and so I started parking out in the where the visitors park. And so I do this for a couple of days, and then one of the days I come in after parking in the visitor spot, I come into the house, and my mom says to me, she's like, oh, if you don't like me smoking in the garage, you can just say something. And I'm like, wait, what are we talking about? Because I didn't even know you were smoking in the garage. And she was like, oh, yes, you do. Because I'm smoking weed in the garage. And then that's the reason why you parked in the visitor spot, because you're mad that the garage smells like weed. But like, you could just say something. And I'm like, first off, I have a bad sense of smell. I've never could smell weed in the garage. I didn't know this was a thing that was happening. I just started parking in the visitor spot because I got tired of lifting the garage. Like it has nothing to do with you. But again, she takes these situations and she makes them about her, and then she gets angry and defensive. It's like, I wasn't even thinking about you in the slightest in this situation. Like, what are we talking about right now? So that happened the first week we're here, and then flash forward again to about a year later, summertime. All these arguments are happening, between me and her, and that was the other thing that I had brought up with her when we had those conversations. Is since we have been living in this townhouse, she's been very adamant that the people next door don't like her, and they're like Asian. They're kind of like dark Asian. So I don't know if they're Indian. I don't know what exactly they are, but they're definitely dark skinned Asians. And my mom has used racial slurs, not to their face, but talking to me, she has used racial slurs when, describing them. And I'm like, yo, cut that out. Like, same way I'd be upset if white people were allowing, other white people to say the N-word around them. I don't like hearing people use racial slurs around other people around, like, chill with all the fucking racism. But she was very adamant that they didn't like that she smoked weed outside. And she was like, the wife in particular, because she was like, every time I'm outside smoking weed, she'll be out there and then she'll start coughing and then she'll just like go back into the house. But they smoke weed too, so I don't know why she's mad when I smoke weed. And I'm like, again, how my brain works. process that. That doesn't make sense to me that they smoke weed, but they hate that you smoke weed. Like that doesn't, I can't wrap my brain around that. That just logically doesn't compute. So logically to me, something else is afoot. And one day I was in the backyard. I wasn't grilling. I don't smoke. I was just backyard. I had my earbuds in. I'm watching some TikTok videos, and I'm just sitting in backyard, wanting to, get some fresh air. And at some point, I heard the sliding door next door open, and that woman had came out and sat in the backyard. And then for the 10, 15 minutes that she sat out there, she proceeded to cough every so often. And then to me, it was like, oh, she has a chronic cough. And I remember after I had got COVID, for instance, I had a chronic cough for like a year or two after that. And so, so to me, no, she has a chronic cough. I don't think that she's coughing to get your attention, to get you to stop smoking weed. I think she just has a chronic cough, but you are just certain that everything is about you, that you're turning that into, oh, they don't like me and they be doing this and they be doing that, when these people have never said anything negative to you. Like, you're making up these scenarios, and like, I don't know. So I had brought that up with her, and she, was, oh, okay, I hear you. And so that was last summer, and then everything was good. Didn't have any additional issues. Everything had been going okay. Then I get laid off in November, and after November, I feel as if we started to bump heads on little light stuff here and there. And in hindsight, what I think overall it is, I don't think my mom knows how to process emotions very well. And again, like I said, she goes from 0 to 100. So I lost my job, and for 4 or 5 months I'm applying, trying to find another job. And I was honest with her at the time, like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to keep the house. I was like, not only with how much it is, the mortgage is monthly, I was like, I'm out of work for a couple months, so I'm about to start getting behind on this monthly mortgage. So I was honest with her about, hey, you should figure out what your next move is going to be if I end up losing this house. And I think the concerns about that causes her to have anxiety about what's going on, and then that ends up popping up in other scenarios. And now part of the problem for me, looking in hindsight, is that the whole time that we're living together, post me getting evicted, never once did she do any type of mental health check to see how I was doing and how I was processing things. Everything was always about checking in on her and do I need to find a new place in the next month or two, or oh, you still want me to move? It was never she never asked how I was doing and mentally, emotionally during any of the time during this. And meanwhile, on the other side, my pops, like I said, who wasn't around when I was a kid, who has done a much better job since I've been an adult, and he has been a great grandfather to his grandkids. He goes to every one of their basketball games. He's always giving them money. He's always, telling them how good of a job they did with this and with school and all that. He's been very emotionally attentive to them and to me in situations. And since I had lost my job, he was constantly checking in on me. How are you doing? Is there anything I could do to help you financially? He was always checking. Is the boys good? Are y'all good? And so it was just very a drastic difference in the two of them, of Pops not staying with me, Pops again not being there when I was a youngster, but he is the one that is making sure that I'm emotionally and financially okay during this situation. Meanwhile, this woman who I've been taking care of for the past 15, 20 years of my life, who's living with me, ain't once checked to see how I'm fucking doing. You not once not made the situation not about you, and I don't know. So, but I kind of, again, these are things that I was conceptualizing, trying to deconstruct in my head. It wasn't anything that I was taking out directly on her. That's what that is. But she I don't know. She started having these weird little emotional quirks where she kept making these comments how the boys didn't like her, and just I don't know. Just, it was always one of those things where she would say it in a jokingly fashion, but jokes come from certain places. And so like that's coming from somewhere where you just think that don't nobody like you. And now again, the boys are similar to me, and they're kind of socially awkward in the sense that sometimes they're talkative about certain things, and then sometimes they're not talkative. It's not anything personal. I'm the same way. Sometimes I could do this podcast as, I'm well over 2 hours of talking. And then I could have the last 2 months where I did not feel like fucking talking. That's just how, I also think the boys are neurodivergent in some type of way. That's just how neurodivergents are. Sometimes we're talkative, sometimes we're not. It has nothing to do with anyone else. It all has to do with internally how we are doing with the world and with things and topics and all that. But anyway, so fast forward. Month of March comes up, and the Isaiah, after he gets out of school, he catches the bus to his mom's house, and then he goes to play basketball at the rec. And then so I pick up Kai from school. Me and Kai come back to the house, and then Isaiah's at the rec center. And then I'm like, yeah, whenever you're done, hooping at the rec, let me know, and I'll come pick you up. And then so it's like 7 o'clock. He hits me up, hey, can you come pick me up? I'm like, cool, got you. So then I leave, I go pick him up. So then I come back to the house. And mind you, again, like I said, the garage door has been jacked up since, first moved in here. And so I park outside of the garage. We walk into the house, and then Isaiah stays, in the house. I go into the garage. I lift the garage door. I back the car in, close the garage, and then I come into the house. And my mom has my youngest son, Isaiah, kind of like cornered, not like physically cornered, but like she's, he's standing in the corner by the downstairs bathroom, and she's standing by him, talking to him sternly. And I come in, I'm like, what's going on? And then like, she's upset, and she's like, look at this shit. And she, gestures off to the bathroom. So I look into the bathroom, and on the top of the toilet seat, there's 2 shoe prints, like someone, had stood on top of the toilet. And I'm like, okay. And then she's like, oh, he's always doing this shit. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is the first I'm hearing of this. And so I was like, so he's leaving footprints and then not cleaning up, behind himself. And I was like, have you said something to him before? She's like, no, I haven't said anything or whatever. I just clean it up. And I'm like, well, I was like, you've never said anything to me either. And so I'm like, I'm confused. I'm like, you're saying that he's been doing this for 18 months now. You have not said a word about it to him. You haven't said a word of it to me. And now that you're at your breaking point, you're pissed off, raising your voice, and you're cussing at people, upset that you're cleaning up something that you never pointed out was happening in the first place. Now, I never asked Isaiah exactly why he did it. I told him in that moment, hey, can you clean that up? And he had no problem. He got the stuff, and oh, sorry, yeah, he got the stuff, and he cleaned it up. I know Isaiah because Isaiah is very similar to me. We're in our own heads, and how my brain processes it is more than likely what happens. I don't have a head to toe mirror in the house. And so more than likely what is happening is Isaiah is getting dressed. He's going downstairs. He's standing on that toilet because there's a mirror right in front of it so he can see what his outfit looks like. And then he's, hopping off the toilet and then going on with his day. He's not looking back and realizing that he's leaving shoe prints on the top of the toilet. So all you have to do is bring it to his attention, and then he will clean up behind himself going forward. But if you don't bring it to his attention, he does not know that he's doing that. And me being someone who's ADHD, I have done that several times where people have gotten mad at me about something and brought something to my attention, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I did not realize that this was happening. It's like, you just, again, brains work different, and so just bring it to my attention and I'll be more mindful of it. And I know I've done that before with like the trash can. The trash can will be full, and then I'll throw some more trash on the top of it, where then the top of the trash can doesn't close all the way. And it's not because I'm being lazy and don't want to take the trash out. In my head, I'm thinking of something else, and I'm muscle memory throwing something in the trash and going on, and I'm not consciously realizing, oh shit, wait, the trash can is full. well, let me take that out and throw it away. Like, it's various things like that where to the neurodivergent brain, our brains may be thinking or looking at something else, and I'm not seeing that from a neurotypical standpoint. So sometimes things have to be brought to our attention for, oh shit, actually, yeah, let me go ahead and do this. I didn't even realize that. Anyway, so yeah, so I, had said that to her. She was like, "It's been happening as long as we've been living here," and she's just fucking frustrated. And I'm like, "Yo," and I'm trying to talk to her, and trying to explain to her, like, well, if you just said something, we could have addressed this instead of waiting until 18 months until you're at your breaking point, pissed off, and you're cussing at everyone. And she gets mad, she storms off, and then and again, I'm still trying to talk to her, and she's cussing and she's pissed off, and then finally I had reached my breaking point, and I had told her, I was like, and this is why you have to move. I was like, I can't keep doing this with you. Like, I'm trying to have a logical conversation with you, and you're just so pissed off and emotional or whatnot. Like, I can't keep doing this. You are the adult in this situation, but you're showing the least amount of emotional stability out of everyone in the house. Like, I can't do this. And she got pissed off, and she went to her room and she slammed the door, and I got pissed off at that. This is my house. Don't be fucking slamming doors in my house. And then so I went to follow her because, again, I'm trying to have a conversation with her as she storms off. And then so I pushed the door open, and then she was by it, and so the door bumped her, and then it didn't like strike her hard or anything like that, but the door bumped her, and she kind of took a step back and kind of fell on her bed, not like fell on her butt, like it kind of just knocked her off her feet or whatever. But she took it, I'm assuming, as a sign of aggression, and so then she went and she grabbed her lamp and she got ready to hit me with the lamp. And then so I looked at her, I was like, and I took out my phone at this time and started recording, and was like, seriously, you're about to hit me with this lamp? And then I took out the phone to start recording it, because now it's reached a point where now she's about to try to physically hit me with something. And I need to film and document this, because if this continues to escalate like this, and I either have to physically remove you from my house, or I have a situation where I have to call the cops to come intervene in this situation, I need video proof of what's going on, because as a black man in America, all you have to do is the second the cops show up is you start crying, and these motherfuckers is going to shoot and kill me. Like, that is the reality in America. All you have to do is put on a victim card, and they will shoot and kill Black Americans. We saw it with Carmelo Anthony. That was something I was going to talk about on this podcast with him and the Ricky Chan case. I'll save that for another podcast episode, because I do want to really deep dive into that, and I didn't expect to talk this much during this episode. But yeah, so I took out the phone, started recording, and I just let her kind of go on a rant, and she went on a rant for like 8 minutes about how I really don't love her, and how I hate her, and how her daughter, my sister, who we have not talked to in the past 5 years, how she secretly hates her. And my mom is like, I don't give a fuck, if other people hate me, if gay people hate me, if other races hate me, I don't give a fuck. Like, she just started going on this massive fucking rant. She called me closeted, which is I think in reference to a transsexual friend that I had stopped by the house one day, and my mom like kind of mean mugged her, and then as we went up to my room to watch TV or whatever, like she like mean mugged us, and she said something under her breath. Anyway, and so she's just ranting and raving and doing all this shit. I have the 8-minute recording. I uploaded it on my YouTube channel, and I made it unlisted. Like, can't nobody watch it. But I say all that to say that I had saved it, for one, for protection in case I had to call the cops. I had the physical evidence of what happened, what led up to that. But then also I recorded it as a reminder, because over the course of my relationship with my mom, she has done this multiple times where she has acted erratically towards me, and me being the person that I am, once she calms down, she doesn't apologize. She'll just start doing things to butter me up or try to be nice to me, and I forgive her, because that's what you do as a mama's boy. And I finally had realized that she has been emotionally abusing me since I was a child and has been emotionally manipulating me to continue to take care of her. And as I had said, she didn't check in with me once after the fucking layoff, how I was doing emotionally when I went through the divorce. She didn't check in on me emotionally with the divorce. She just went on about how much she didn't like my ex-wife. Like, you have never checked in as a mother to your son to see how I'm doing emotionally if I need anything. It has just always been about what I can do for her. And I finally hit a breaking point and finally had enough. So I went and I typed up a 30-day notice and I signed it. And I taped it and put it up on her door. She had 30 days to get out, or I was going to legally have her removed from the property. She then spent the next 30 days at the house. I didn't talk to her the whole 30 days that we were there. A couple weeks, I had my boys stay with their mom because I didn't even want them here in a situation where, like, there's all this tension in the house. Like, I don't even want y'all in the middle of this. And furthermore, I don't want to be in another situation where she blows up emotionally again and then I have to blow up again. Like, I was like, I just kind of want to leave it at where it was at. And then she got somebody to help her move out, and she moved out. I have no idea where she moved out. I didn't check. I didn't ask anybody, but she moved out, and I've gone no contact since she moved out. She has texted me a couple times. She has called me a couple times. I haven't answered it. I haven't responded to any of the texts. I know I had talked to my oldest Kai one day, and he was like, Mama keeps texting me here and there. And he's like, I don't really know what to say to her. And I had said to him, I was like, honestly, I mean, you're a young man. I was like, if you want to respond to her and continue to, try to rebuild that relationship, I'm not going to be mad at you. And I was like, on the other side of it, I was like, if you don't feel comfortable having a conversation with her after the way that she acted, I understand that also. Like, it's up to you. I'm not going to hold you to have to do this or do that. You are your own man, and, you can do what you want to do in this situation. And yeah, just have gone no contact. And that is difficult because, like I said, I was a mama's boy growing up. And here I am in a situation, and kind of like I have talked about in the podcast over the past year, I have gone through this 10-year transformation of everything in my life has been kind of stripped from me. I, was a heavy weed smoker, and then that led to the fucking weed DUI, which puts me on 5 years probation, which led to me becoming a heavy drinker again. And then that heavy drinking led me to the fucking diabetes. And then Kai had that very serious traumatic eye injury back in 2022, which then kind of led to the cracks in the marriage with my wife at the time, which then I took her to therapy, and same thing. She didn't want to process any of these emotions. She didn't want to process any of her childhood trauma. She just wanted to point fingers and blame. And so then that ended up leading to me moving out of the house and filing for divorce. And then, like I said, the diabetes situation led to me having to completely change my diet and start going back to the gym and getting in shape and all that, which then, then leads to me getting laid off from my job, and then, kind of having to start back over work. And now I'm doing this physical job that is also helping me with my physical health. It's helping me with my mental health of being autistic and ADHD and not having to interact with people all day. And I could just be with myself and with my own mind as I've tried to unravel this autistic burnout I've been dealing with for the past couple of years. And then the situation with my mom, and then kind of falling apart with her. Is just like everything that has been part of my life has just kind of unraveled over the past 10 years. And as difficult as it is, and I won't lie that I'm not stressed. I'm on fucking Zoloft now, getting the highest dosage I can get. And I'm, kind of dealing with the depression as I deal with it and processing emotions and all that, and started journaling and doing different things to kind of just help me with everything. At the end of the day, it has to be for a reason. And I guess I'll leave it on this note is, I think maybe when you look back 10, 12 years ago, I wasn't really happy in life. I wasn't being my true, authentic self in any capacity of the matter, and I was surrounded by a bunch of people who weren't there for me in the way that I needed them to be. They were there for me for what I can do for them, and I prayed and meditated and manifested and did all the different woo-woo things that you could do to try to help me get to a place of happiness. And I think that's what the universe did. It was like, yeah, you're unhappy. You're unhappy because of these substances that you're putting in your body, and you're unhappy because of these people that you're surrounded by. You're in a bunch of rooms that you should not be in. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove you from all these situations so you could grow as a person, and you could finally truly be who you are supposed to be. And yeah, I think that's what it is. And that's the reason why life and love and relationships and everything is just a thin line between love and hate.
I had a friend once, but we don't really talk anymore. They were the kind of friend you could keep pouring into their cup, and it was never enough for them. You know, time after time after time, I drained myself to try to help this person I love feel like, even for a moment, everything was okay, just the way it is. The only problem is I didn't really believe that. Not about them or my circumstances. And while we were friends, I rarely ever considered, even for a moment, how truly incredible the process of becoming is. And I let those years slip past me because I was so focused on being in the position that I'm in today. And I was so focused on the good in them. And I was so desperate for, a real friend. I think I was scared to see this person I had let so close to me for who they truly were. Because if I did, I would have seen right away, this bitch is full of
Wax on, wax off, kick these bitches off. Bitch, I founded boundaries, wanna see who cross. Look who's not around me. If you sense some distance, I don't trust you bitches. Wax on, wax off, kick these bitches off. Wax on, wax off, keep these bitches off. Wax on, wax off, keep these bitches off. Wax on, wax off, keep these bitches off. Wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off.
I been cooped up, gotta be rich sooner. That I have glitz, fist, to the cool, pain in future. Keep these bitches off, can't trust what side they on. Mama raised me right, been done so wrong. If one more man tell me to smile more, I'll catch a news case. Catch me on a bad day, I'll go off the deep end. Full shake, the commentary from Boomer Stay drinking up the Kool-Aid. I cop a blicky and make it pop. Got me some sticky socks, got me a two-tone. Watch out, these bitches acting different after you blow. How can you trust it all before the truth show? I don't need yes men, I need some kinfolk. There's only trust in that one that I'm tryna be. In a world of these wannabe celebrities. Gotta keep these bitches off, keep these bitches off. Burning bridges down like the Molotov.
Wax on, wax off, keep these bitches off. Wax on, wax off, keep these bitches off. Wax on, wax off, keep these bitches off. Wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. I feel like waxing on them. This is my testimony, test the money, taxing on them. They so protective over what you'll never actually know. Swept up in passion, no backbone, so it's not actionable. Matter of fact, it's dangerous and counterproductive to keep your ass around my home. This ain't about right or wrong. This ain't about writing songs. I can feel that you are misaligned with what's inside your bones. You deserve to feel at home, and obviously that's not with me. I got my little pots of pee. I made my little rice and beans, make a little bean name on Spotify streams. Now spot on my feet when I pop up on top of your feet. I hope that you find us a piece to write about all that love that you desperately need and stay the fuck out of my girlfriend DM. Girl, that we cannot be friends. You are a serpent, seething, surviving all of your venom. Part of my journey, see rain, that's why I shine. I show up for my life. Ironic that I find what I seek from those who hide. I've rapped about some weapons, but my best one's that I'm kind. But if you cross that fucking line, wax on, wax off, keep these bitches off. Wax on, wax off, keep these bitches off. Wax on, wax off, keep these bitches off. Wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off, keep these bitches off. Wax on, wax off, keep these bitches off. Wax on, wax off, keep these bitches off. Wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. line, cross the line. How many times did I? Yeah, I know it's way too high, don't try to quantify. I'm so grateful for the growth, can we move on with life? If I ever did you dirty, better wax off. Stay on business, bitch, lock the front back door. When you big step it, better expect to brace a fucking toes. The profile videos, I got a better cure. If I gotta do what I have to do, I'm better for it. My heart was frozen to the core until I let it go. This is my lived experience, it's not a metaphor. Excommunicate excuses, I don't tolerate abuse, I wax on. Wax on, wax on, wax on, wax on, wax on, wax on. Say that shit with your chest, girl.